The first encounter. The universe was vast, and humanity was small in comparison. But all of that was about to change. Earth had spent centuries looking up at the stars, wondering if they were truly alone. The answer came unexpectedly, in a way that no one could have prepared for. It started with strange signals. At first, they seemed like nothing more than space noise, the kind of static that every scientist expected to find in the vast emptiness of space. But these signals were different. They were too organized, too precise. Something about them felt purposeful. The best minds on Earth worked tirelessly, trying to decode the messages. For months, they worked, trying to understand the strange patterns, until finally, they had a breakthrough. The signals came from a distant part of the galaxy, far beyond human reach. A powerful, advanced civilization was reaching out to Earth. The leaders of the world tried to remain calm, but a sense of awe and fear mixed together. No one knew what to expect from the aliens. Some thought they might be peaceful. Others feared an invasion. One thing was certain. Earth was not prepared. The day of the first contact arrived. The world's eyes were glued to their screens. News networks were flooded with reports. The skies above Earth were empty for now, but the world held its breath, waiting for the unknown to unfold. Every leader, every scientist, every person on Earth felt a strange anticipation. Could humanity handle the arrival of an alien species? Or would the world as they knew it end in an instant? Then it happened. A ship appeared in the sky, unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. It was massive, far larger than any human-made spacecraft. The ship's surface shimmered, as if it were made from materials that defied earthly logic. It hovered in the atmosphere, silent and imposing. For a long moment, no one moved. Everyone simply stared, as if waiting for the aliens to make the first move. The ship didn't land. Instead, a large beam of light shot out from it, straight down toward the ground. The beam connected with the Earth, and a loud hum filled the air. It was as though the ship was speaking to the planet itself. People everywhere were terrified, unsure of what to do. What was this light? What did it mean? Minutes passed, and then the beam stopped. The ship was still hovering there, and silence returned to Earth. People began to whisper among themselves, wondering what was going to happen next. Was this a peaceful encounter, or was it the beginning of something more dangerous? Without warning, the ship began to move, but not upward, as everyone had expected. It started to descend slowly toward the ground. Its enormous size made it seem like it was a mountain coming to Earth. The atmosphere crackled with tension. People ran into the streets, watching in awe and fear as the alien ship came closer. The world's governments quickly mobilized, preparing for the worst. Fighter jets scrambled, and military forces were put on high alert. They had no idea what they were dealing with. They only knew that if the aliens had the power to reach Earth, then they must be more advanced than anything humanity had ever seen. But as the ship continued its descent, something unexpected happened. The air seemed to grow heavier. The ground trembled slightly, as if the Earth itself was responding to the alien presence. The massive ship lowered further and finally stopped, hovering just a few meters above the ground. A strange silence fell over the world. No one moved. No one spoke. For a moment, it felt like time had frozen. Every eye on the planet was focused on the alien vessel. Then the ship opened. A hatch on its side slowly slid open, revealing a faint light from within. The crowd gasped, some in fear, others in wonder. A single figure emerged from the ship. It was tall, with smooth skin that shimmered in the light. The being wore a strange outfit, one that glowed softly, and its eyes were a deep, glowing blue. It moved with an unnatural grace, as if it was floating instead of walking. It stopped at the edge of the ship, looking around at the people gathered below. The figure said nothing, but its presence was overwhelming. Everyone waited for the alien to speak, to explain why they had come to Earth. The silence stretched on, creating an eerie tension. Every person watching felt as though the fate of the entire planet was hanging in the balance. Finally, the alien spoke. Its voice was soft, but carried with it a strange power. It didn't sound like anything human, yet somehow, everyone understood the words. "We are the Zakor," it said. "We come in peace." The words echoed in the minds of everyone present, as if they were being spoken directly into their thoughts. For a moment, there was a sense of relief. Perhaps this was a peaceful encounter after all. But then, without warning, the sky began to darken. Dark clouds rolled in quickly, and the air grew heavy. People looked up, confused, and then panic set in. The Zakor had not come alone. Hundreds of other ships began to appear in the sky, surrounding Earth in every direction. They were not small vessels. They were enormous, with advanced weapons visible along their sides. The people of Earth had been mistaken. This wasn't a peaceful meeting at all. The Zakor had arrived, but they had not come to make friends. They had come to conquer. And as the ships began to move into position, humanity realized the truth. The universe wasn't just vast, it was dangerous. The unseen weapon. The Earth had barely processed the shock of first contact when the true nightmare unfolded. The sky, once clear and bright, was now filled with the shadow of alien warships. A chill ran through every human on the planet as they stared upward, watching the enormous fleet silently surround the Earth. The peaceful appearance of the lone Zakor emissary, who had claimed they came in peace, now seemed like a cruel lie. No one knew how to react or what to do. The military stood ready, but there was no plan, no hope. Earth was powerless. The alien fleet hovered in place, and for a long, tense moment, the silence was only broken by the hum of their engines. It was then that the first attack came. A ship in the fleet fired a single, powerful beam down toward the Earth. The blast struck a large city, leveling it in an instant. Buildings crumbled, fire spread, and the sky turned dark with smoke. Panic spread across the planet as people scrambled to find shelter, not knowing where the next strike would fall. Leaders scrambled in chaos. Military units were called into action, but they were no match for the sheer size and firepower of the alien ships. Earth's defense systems, which had been designed to deal with threats from space, proved useless. The alien technology was far beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. The human forces could barely scratch the surface of the invaders' shields. For the first time in history, Earth was helpless. Back in the heart of Earth's defenses, a group of scientists, engineers, and military officers gathered in a secret underground bunker. The world's leaders had fled to safety, leaving the best minds to figure out how to turn the tide. But the mood in the room was grim. They knew that without a miracle, humanity's time was running out. As they debated what to do, one scientist, Dr. Helen Carter, an expert in deep space technology, spoke up. Her voice was calm, though a sense of urgency filled her words. "There is something you don't know about Earth," she began, drawing the attention of everyone in the room. "Something hidden away for centuries." The group fell silent as Dr. Carter continued, explaining something that had been kept from the public eye. Long before the first alien signals had reached Earth, a secret project had been initiated, designed to protect humanity in case of just this kind of invasion. It was called Project Phoenix. "We didn't have much to work with," Dr. Carter explained. "The project was more of a last resort measure, a hope that we would never have to use it. But now, it's the only option left. We've been preparing for an invasion like this for generations without anyone knowing." The room buzzed with disbelief and curiosity. A hidden weapon. Something humanity had never even heard of. Dr. Carter moved to a nearby console, her fingers flying over the controls. "It's been activated," she said with a quiet urgency. "But it's not just a weapon. It's a force of nature." Her words hung in the air. "What do you mean, a force of nature?" someone asked. "The weapon we've hidden is not just technological," Dr. Carter replied. "It taps into a power we've always had but never understood. Something ancient, something that could shift the very fabric of space-time if used correctly. A weapon that doesn't rely on technology, but on the human will to survive. The room fell silent. Could this truly be humanity's last hope? And how would they even control it? Before anyone could respond, an alarm blared through the bunker. A new wave of alien ships had appeared, and this time, they were descending toward Earth's major cities. As the alien fleet loomed closer, the tension in the room grew unbearable. But Dr. Carter's calm expression never wavered. "We don't have time to explain," she said. "We need to launch it now." They moved quickly, activating the systems that had remained dormant for so long. The weapon, an experimental fusion reactor combined with ancient human energy techniques, had been lying in wait, ready for this moment. The countdown began. Everyone knew that activating the weapon would not guarantee victory. In fact, it could backfire and destroy them all. But there was no choice. It was all they had. As the countdown reached 0, a sudden surge of energy pulsed through the Earth. The ground trembled as if the planet itself was awakening. It felt as though the very core of Earth had shifted, the power of humanity's survival instinct channeling through the hidden weapon. The energy shot upward into the sky, brighter than the sun itself. The alien fleet paused in midair, as if caught off guard. The weapon wasn't just a physical force. It was something beyond comprehension, a surge of energy born from the strength of Earth's defenders. The alien ships began to flicker, their shields destabilizing, their technology failing in the face of the raw, untamed power they had never expected from such a primitive species. The fleet's commanders had miscalculated. They had underestimated humanity's will to fight. The energy from the weapon intensified, sending shockwaves through the fleet. One by one, the alien ships began to vanish, flickering out of existence, as if they had been erased from reality itself. The skies cleared, and for a moment, it seemed as though Earth had won. The fleet was gone. But then, just as quickly as the energy surged, it faded. The weapon had drained the last of its power, and the planet returned to its quiet state. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was enough. The Zakor fleet had been driven off for now. Earth had proven that it wasn't as weak as the aliens had thought. But as the dust settled, humanity realized that this was only the beginning. The alien fleet might have disappeared, but the Zakor were not easily deterred. And somewhere, deep within the stars, the Zakor leaders were already planning their next move. The secret history. In the aftermath of the first battle, the world stood at a crossroads. Humanity had survived the initial assault, but there was no time to rest. The Zakor fleet had been pushed back, but they were still out there, waiting, planning their next move. For the first time in history, Earth was united, but the unity was born from fear, not strength. The victory felt hollow, as the world's leaders scrambled to understand the true nature of the alien invaders. How had they been able to send such an overwhelming force? How had they known Earth was vulnerable? The truth was simple yet terrifying. Humanity had been watched for longer than they realized. Dr. Helen Carter, the scientist who had activated Project Phoenix, knew the truth. She had spent her life studying the cosmos, searching for answers to questions that had been asked since the beginning of human history. But what she uncovered went far beyond her expectations. Late one evening, as the world tried to rebuild, Dr. Carter was deep in thought, reviewing the ancient texts that had been hidden for centuries. These weren't just ordinary historical records. They were something more. They were written by the first humans who had discovered the truth about the stars. These records revealed a long-forgotten secret about Earth's past, one that had been kept from humanity for thousands of years. She began reading aloud, her voice barely above a whisper as she deciphered the strange symbols. Before the Zakor, before the first recorded alien contact, there were others, visitors from the stars. They came to Earth long before the rise of modern civilization, hidden among us, and they left something behind, something powerful. Dr. Carter's hands trembled as she read on. It was clear now that the Zokor were not the first to have visited Earth. In fact, humans had been encountering alien species for thousands of years. These earlier civilizations had kept their presence hidden, only leaving behind cryptic warnings. And what was even more shocking was the revelation that humans had, on occasion, fought back against these alien invaders. But the victories had been so rare, so hard-won, that they had been erased from history. Dr. Carter knew that this discovery could change everything. The ancient texts spoke of an artifact, a weapon of unimaginable power that had been hidden away on Earth long ago. The problem was, no one knew where it was, not even the governments of the world. The information had been lost in the passage of time, buried beneath layers of secrecy and misinformation. As she dug deeper into the records, she found that the artifact was not just a weapon in the traditional sense. It was something more, a relic of the first human civilization, one that had been destroyed by a powerful alien race. The relic was said to have the power to manipulate the very fabric of space-time itself, a force so strong that it could bend the universe to its will. If the Zokor discovered its location, they would be unstoppable. Humanity would stand no chance. Desperate to learn more, Dr. Carter sought out the few remaining experts on ancient human technology. After weeks of searching, she found what she was looking for: a retired historian named Marcus Flynn. Flynn had spent his life studying Earth's lost history and had spent years researching the same texts that Dr. Carter had uncovered. He was one of the few people who believed that there was more to Earth's past than anyone realized. "You're on the right track," Flynn said, his voice heavy with caution as he looked over the records. "The Zokor, they'd been watching us for millennia. But they're not the only ones. There's something else out there. Something older, far more powerful. And they've been waiting for us to uncover the artifact." "Why? What do they want with it?" Dr. Carter asked, her voice tight with anxiety. Flynn leaned in closer, his eyes darkened with concern. "The artifact is a key to something much larger than Earth, something that could reshape the entire galaxy. The Zokor are just the beginning. There are other forces in the universe, even older than them, that will stop at nothing to control it." The two of them sat in silence, the weight of their discovery pressing down on them. Earth had been unknowingly caught in the middle of a war that spanned the stars. The Zokor weren't just conquerors, they were part of a larger cosmic struggle for control of the universe. And humanity had just become a pawn in that battle. Dr. Carter and Flynn knew they had no choice. They had to find the artifact before the Zokor did. But finding it wouldn't be easy. The clues were scattered, hidden in the ruins of ancient civilizations, and buried deep within Earth's history. And the Zokor were already closing in on Earth, preparing for their next strike. Time was running out. The two scientists decided to take their discovery to the world leaders, hoping to convince them that the real threat wasn't just the Zokor. They were a symptom of a much larger, more dangerous enemy. But when they arrived at the United Nations headquarters, they were met with resistance. Most leaders were skeptical, unwilling to believe that such an ancient secret could have any bearing on the current situation. Some even dismissed Dr. Carter and Flynn as conspiracy theorists. But there was one leader who listened, the President of the United States. He understood the gravity of the situation, and he knew that humanity needed more than just military power. They needed knowledge. They needed to unlock the secrets of their own past. Together, they formed a secret task force, a coalition of the world's best scientists, military strategists, and historians, all working in the shadows to find the artifact before it was too late. As they worked in secret, the Zokor began their next phase of their plan. They knew that humanity had found something dangerous, and they were determined to get to it first. The clock was ticking, and the race to uncover the truth about Earth's forgotten past had begun. The battle for the universe was no longer just a fight between alien invaders and humans. It was a fight for control of the future itself. Betrayal within. In the shadow of Earth's growing resistance, tensions began to rise. not only between humanity and the Zok-Core, but within humanity itself. The secret task force, led by Dr. Helen Carter and Marcus Flynn, worked tirelessly to locate the ancient artifact that could turn the tide of the war. Clues pointed to an uncharted region in the Pacific Ocean, deep beneath the waves, where a long-forgotten structure might hold the key to humanity's survival. But not everyone on Earth believed in the artifact's power or in the mission. Fear and desperation had begun to corrupt even the strongest of hearts. Among the ranks of Earth's leaders was someone with their own agenda, a man named Richard Voss, a high-ranking official in the United Nations military coalition. Voss was ambitious, ruthless, and above all, terrified. He didn't trust the idea of chasing myths and legends while the Zok-Core loomed overhead. To him, survival meant negotiation, even submission. Unbeknownst to the task force, Voss had been secretly communicating with the Zok-Core, offering them information in exchange for his safety. The Zok-Core, recognizing an opportunity, played along. They promised Voss that if he helped them locate the artifact, they would spare him and his allies. Voss, blinded by his fear and greed, agreed. Meanwhile, the task force launched an expedition to the Pacific Ocean. Using advanced submersibles, they descended into the depths, guided by ancient maps and the faint signals left behind by the artifact. The journey was perilous. The deeper they went, the more unnatural the surroundings became. Strange currents pulled at their vessels, and the water seemed alive, pulsating with energy. Dr. Carter couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. "This place," she said, her voice barely audible over the hum of the submersible's engines, "it's not just a location. It's alive." Marcus Flynn nodded, staring at the holographic map in front of them. The artifact's power might have been dormant for centuries, but it's still here, and it's calling out to us and to them. As they approached the ocean floor, their instruments began to malfunction. The readings were erratic, the lights flickered, and the communication systems crackled with interference. It was as if the artifact was testing them, warning them of the dangers ahead. Finally, they'd reached the structure, a colossal temple-like ruin, covered in coral and glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. The team was awestruck. This was it, the place they had been searching for. But their awe quickly turned to panic. The Zok-Core were already there. Above the surface, Voss had shared the expedition's coordinates with the alien fleet. The Zok-Core wasted no time. Using their advanced cloaking technology, they had sent a squadron of ships to intercept the humans before they could reach the artifact. Dr. Carter and her team found themselves surrounded. The submersible's alarms blared as alien drones appeared, sleek and deadly, circling the temple. The Zok-Core hadn't come to negotiate. They had come to destroy. The team scrambled to find cover within the temple ruins, desperately trying to come up with a plan. "We can't fight them head-on," Flynn said, his voice shaking. "They'll tear us apart." Dr. Carter, her mind racing, studied the glowing symbols on the temple walls. "We don't need to fight them," she said. "We just need to activate the artifact before they do." The team worked frantically, deciphering the ancient carvings and powering up the temple systems. The structure began to hum with energy, its light growing brighter. The artifact wasn't just a weapon, it was a beacon, a message left by the ancient humans for their descendants. It carried knowledge, power, and a warning. But just as they were on the verge of unlocking the artifact's full potential, the betrayal came to light. Voss's voice crackled through their comms, his face appearing on the submersible screens. "Dr. Carter," he said, his tone cold and calculating. "Stand down. This isn't a fight we can win. The Zok-Core have promised mercy if we surrender the artifact to them." Carter's blood ran cold. "You betrayed us," she whispered, the weight of his actions sinking in. "I'm saving us," Voss shot back. "You're risking everything on a relic from a forgotten age. It's madness." Before Carter could respond, the Zok-Core drones launched their attack. Energy blasts tore through the water, shaking the temple and scattering the team. Voss's betrayal had given the Zok-Core the upper hand, And now the artifact, and humanity's last hope, was in jeopardy. As chaos erupted, Dr. Carter made a desperate decision. She activated the artifact prematurely, not knowing what would happen. The temple's walls glowed brighter than ever, and a surge of energy erupted from the structure, sending shockwaves through the ocean. The Zocor drones were disabled instantly, their systems overwhelmed by the artifact's power. But the energy surge wasn't just defensive, it was a signal. A call sent out into the vastness of space, reaching something, or someone, far beyond the Zocor. The temple began to collapse under the strain, and the team was forced to retreat. Dr. Carter and Flynn barely made it back to the surface, where they found the alien fleet retreating, seemingly confused and disoriented. But this was no victory. The artifact's signal had awakened something ancient, something even the Zocor feared. As the team regrouped, battered and shaken, Dr. Carter looked to the horizon. The ocean was calm once more, but the sky above seemed darker, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. "We've opened a door," she said quietly, her voice filled with both wonder and dread. "And now we have to face what's on the other side." Humanity's battle with the Zocor was far from over, but the real war, the war for the universe, was just beginning. The battle begins. The signal from the artifact had rippled through the universe, and its consequences were immediate. Deep in the void of space, the Zocor command fleet detected the burst of energy. Their monitors flickered, showing erratic readings unlike anything they had encountered before. To them, it was a warning. Something ancient and dangerous had awakened, and humanity had just become more than a minor obstacle. The Zocor Supreme Commander, Arthun, stood aboard his flagship, staring at the holographic projection of Earth. His deep-set eyes glowed faintly as he spoke. "They've activated it. The artifact is awake," he said, his voice cold and deliberate. "We must neutralize it before they fully understand its power." On Earth, the atmosphere was electric. Dr. Carter's team, battered but alive, returned to the surface with their findings. The task force immediately began analyzing the data retrieved from the artifact. It was more than they could have imagined. A blueprint of not just the weapon, but also a strategy for using it against the Zocor. The artifact's power wasn't merely destructive. It was a key to unlocking humanity's latent potential, enhancing their technology, and even their biology. The ancient humans who had created it had harnessed a force beyond the understanding of modern science, a fusion of energy, willpower, and the fabric of the cosmos itself. It was humanity's hidden strength, buried and forgotten, waiting for the right moment to awaken. But there was no time to fully explore the artifact's secrets. The Zocor fleet was moving, and their arrival was imminent. Earth's military forces scrambled to prepare for the inevitable battle. Satellites tracked the alien fleet's movements, and global defenses were activated. Despite the artifact's potential, humanity's leaders knew they were still outmatched. As the Zocor fleet entered Earth's orbit, the skies darkened with the shadow of their massive ships. This time, they didn't wait. Beams of light rained down from the heavens, targeting Earth's major cities and military installations. Explosions lit up the night sky, and the ground shook under the assault. People fled in terror, seeking shelter wherever they could. The task force, now operating out of a fortified underground base, watched the destruction unfold on their monitors. Marcus Flynn clenched his fists, his face pale. "We can't let this happen. We have to fight back." Dr. Carter, standing beside him, nodded. "We have one chance," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "The artifact's energy can be used to create a shield, a barrier strong enough to repel their attacks. But it's unstable. If it fails..." Flynn didn't let her finish. "If it fails, we lose everything anyway," he said. "We have no choice." The team worked frantically, channeling the artifact's energy into a series of satellites that had been retrofitted with the ancient technology. The plan was simple in theory. The satellites would project a protective shield around Earth, giving humanity time to regroup and strike back. But the technology was untested, and no one knew if it would hold. The battle began in earnest as the Zocor fleet unleashed their full arsenal. Earth's military fought back with everything they had, but it was like trying to stop a hurricane with a paper umbrella. The alien ships were faster, stronger, and nearly invincible. Human fighter jets were swatted out of the sky like insects, and ground forces were decimated by the alien energy weapons. Despite the odds, humanity fought with a determination that surprised even the Zocor. Soldiers on the ground held their positions, firing at the invaders with whatever weapons they had. Civilians banded together, creating makeshift defenses and shelters. The spirit of humanity refused to break, even in the face of overwhelming odds. At the underground base, the task force finally activated the artifact-powered shield. A surge of energy shot into the atmosphere. And for a moment, the skies lit up with a brilliant light. The shield flickered into existence, a shimmering dome of energy that encased the planet. The Zocor ships halted their assault, their beams unable to penetrate the barrier. For the first time, the invaders hesitated. On the Zocor flagship, Commander Arthuan narrowed his eyes. "Impressive," he muttered, "but it won't last." He ordered his fleet to focus their firepower on the shield, testing its limits. The energy barrier shimmered and pulsed under the onslaught, but it held firm. On Earth, a wave of cautious hope spread. Perhaps, just perhaps, they could survive this. But the artifact had its own plans. As the shield absorbed the energy from the Zocor attacks, it began to glow brighter, its power growing. The ancient technology wasn't just defending, it was adapting, learning from the enemy's energy weapons. Suddenly, beams of light shot out from the shield, striking the alien ships with pinpoint accuracy. The Zocor fleet, for the first time, found themselves on the defensive. The task force watched in awe as the artifact's power turned the tide of the battle. But Dr. Carter noticed something alarming. The energy readings from the artifact were spiking uncontrollably. "It's overloading," she warned. "If we don't stabilize it, the shield could collapse, or worse." Flynn looked at her, his expression grim. "Do we have a choice?" Dr. Carter shook her head. "No, we have to let it play out." The Zocor fleet regrouped, their commanders shouting orders to adapt to the unexpected resistance. But it was too late. The artifact's power had reached a critical point, and the shield erupted in a wave of energy that swept through the alien fleet. Ships disintegrated one by one, their advanced technology no match for the ancient force. When the waves subsided, the skies above Earth were clear. The Zocor fleet had been annihilated. But the victory came at a cost. The artifact, now drained of its energy, had gone dormant. And deep in the void of space, the signal it had sent continued to travel, reaching something far more ancient and far more dangerous. Dr. Carter stared at the darkened artifact, her heart heavy. "We've won this battle," she said softly. "But we've awakened something we don't understand. The battle for Earth was over, but the war for the universe was only beginning. Humanity strikes back." Earth stood in a fragile moment of triumph. The Zocor fleet had been obliterated, and for the first time in human history, the world glimpsed its potential to stand against a superior force. But the victory was hollow. The artifact, drained of its energy, lay silent, and the ominous signal it had sent was still traveling through the cosmos, a beacon to powers beyond imagination. The task force was given little time to celebrate. The Zocor had been defeated, but their forces were far from exhausted. Dr. Helen Carter knew that another assault would come, stronger and more coordinated than the first. The artifact's dormant state left Earth vulnerable, and the global defense systems were stretched to their breaking point. In the midst of this uneasy calm, a mysterious development unfolded. A faint transmission was intercepted, alien in origin, but not Zocor. The message contained no words, only coordinates. The location was far from Earth, deep in the Kuiper Belt, at the edge of the solar system. "This is a trap," Marcus Flynn said flatly, studying the coordinates on the holographic display. Dr. Carter shook her head. or it's an opportunity. Whoever sent this might know more about the artifact, or the Zocor. The room was divided. Sending a team to the Kuiper Belt would stretch Earth's resources thin, but doing nothing risked leaving Earth blind to the larger threat looming in the galaxy. Finally, after heated debate, a decision was made. A small, highly skilled team would be sent to investigate, while the rest of Earth prepared for the inevitable Zocor counterattack. The mission to the Kuiper Belt was unlike anything humanity had attempted before. The spacecraft, Resolute, was equipped with experimental technology derived from the artifact's energy readings. It was faster and more agile than any ship before it, but still no match for a direct confrontation with the Zocor. The crew of the Resolute included Dr. Carter, Marcus Flynn, and a team of elite soldiers and scientists. As they approached the coordinates, tension filled the air. The Kuiper Belt was an icy, silent expanse, dotted with frozen rocks and faint glimmers of distant starlight. Nothing moved, yet the crew felt as though they were being watched. Suddenly, their instruments detected a massive structure hidden among the debris. A gargantuan alien station, its surface glowing faintly with the same energy patterns as the artifact. "It's ancient," Dr. Carter whispered, her voice filled with awe. This isn't Zocor. It's something else entirely." The Resolute approached cautiously, scanning the station. The readings were unlike anything they had encountered. The station was alive, its systems pulsating with energy, yet it showed no signs of activity. The crew decided to dock and investigate. Inside the station, the air was eerily still. The architecture was massive and alien, with walls that seemed to shift and change as they walked. Strange symbols adorned every surface, glowing faintly. The deeper they ventured, the stronger the sense of unease grew. Dr. Carter paused in front of a massive control panel, her fingers tracing the glowing symbols. "This is a repository," she said, her voice trembling. "It's storing knowledge about the artifact, about the universe, maybe even about us." Before she could continue, the station came to life. Lights flared, and a deep, resonating hum filled the air. The crew froze as a holographic figure appeared before them, a tall, humanoid being with a translucent form that seemed to shimmer like starlight. The figure spoke, its voice resonating in their minds rather than through sound. "You are late," it said, its tone calm but inscrutable. "The Zocor have already begun their march, and the Ancient Ones have awakened." Dr. Carter stepped forward, her heart pounding. "Who are you? Why did you call us here?" The figure's expression remained unreadable. "We are the Sentinels, guardians of the old knowledge. The artifact you possess is but one piece of a greater whole. The Zocor seek it to command the rift, the boundary between this universe and the next. If they succeed, all will fall." The revelation hit the crew like a tidal wave. The artifact wasn't just a weapon, it was a lock. And the Zocor weren't merely conquerors, they were trying to open a door to something far worse. "How do we stop them?" Flynn demanded. The Sentinel's form flickered. "The artifact must be recharged, and the key fragments must be united. There is another piece hidden within your solar system, buried where your ancestors once stood defiant." Before they could ask more, the station shuddered violently. The Zocor had found them. Outside, a fleet of Zocor ships emerged from hyperspace, their weapons primed. The Resolute was trapped, its crew outnumbered and outgunned. The station's defenses activated, but they were ancient and failing. The team had no choice but to flee. Dr. Carter downloaded as much of the station's knowledge as she could before they made their escape. The crew barely made it back to the Resolute as the Zocor ships began their assault. The alien station, unable to defend itself, erupted in a blinding explosion, taking several enemy ships with it. The Resolute jumped to hyperspace, narrowly escaping the remaining Zocor fleet. As the ship sped back toward Earth, the crew knew they were running out of time. The key fragments had to be united, and humanity had to be ready to face not just the Zocor, but the ancient force they sought to unleash. On Earth, the skies grew darker. The artifact's dormant form began to pulse faintly once more, as if sensing the storm that was coming. Dr. Carter, Flynn, and the rest of the task force prepared for the next battle. A battle not just for survival, but for the fate of the universe itself. Humanity wasn't just striking back. They were fighting for everything. The final stand. The Resolute returned to Earth carrying both hope and dread. The knowledge they had gained from the Sentinel was invaluable. The artifact was only one part of a larger key, and another fragment was hidden somewhere on Earth. But the Zokor were closing in, and with them came the shadow of an ancient, unimaginable force. The Rift. The final battle was no longer just about Earth's survival. It was about the survival of the entire universe. The race to the fragment. Dr. Helen Carter and Marcus Flynn wasted no time. Using the Sentinel's data, they pinpointed the location of the second fragment, a hidden chamber beneath the ancient ruins of Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey. This ancient site, long thought to be an archaeological mystery, was in fact a marker left by the first humans who had fought against the Rift eons ago. The task force mobilized a small team to retrieve the fragment. Time was running out. The Zokor fleet was advancing, their numbers replenished and bolstered by reinforcements. Earth's defenses were stretched thin, and the artifact's energy was still unstable. As the team descended into the ancient ruins, they encountered traps and puzzles designed to protect the fragment from falling into the wrong hands. Strange carvings on the walls seemed to move and shift, depicting humanity's first war against the Rift. They showed a civilization far more advanced than anyone had imagined, one that had sacrificed everything to seal the Rift. Finally, in a hidden chamber deep beneath the ruins, the team found the second fragment. It glowed faintly, resonating with the artifact aboard the Resolute, but the moment they touched it, a surge of energy shot through the chamber. The Zokor had been tracking them, and now they were here. The Zokor's desperation. Above the ruins, Zokor dropships descended, their soldiers swarming the area. The task force team fought valiantly, using every resource at their disposal to hold the enemy at bay. The air was filled with the sound of energy weapons and explosions as humanity's resistance clashed with the alien invaders. Marcus Flynn, leading the ground team, barked orders as the Zokor closed in. "We can't let them take this," he shouted, holding his ground as the team secured the fragment. Dr. Carter worked frantically to activate the fragment's energy, hoping to create a barrier to protect them. But the Zokor weren't just after the fragment. They were desperate now. The Sentinel's warning had rattled them, and they knew that if humanity succeeded in reassembling the key, it would spell their doom. In the chaos, one of the Zokor commanders descended to the battlefield. Unlike the others, this figure radiated authority and menace. Arthun himself had come to claim the fragment, the final key. Back on Earth, global forces were preparing for the ultimate confrontation. The Zokor fleet began its assault, targeting major cities and military installations. But humanity, armed with the knowledge of the artifact and bolstered by their newfound unity, stood firm. The artifact aboard the Resolute began to pulse stronger as the fragment was brought aboard. Its energy resonated with the Earth itself, as if awakening an ancient power hidden deep within the planet's core. Dr. Carter and Flynn raced against time to connect the fragment to the artifact. The Sentinel's data revealed the truth. Once the fragments were united, the artifact would unleash a surge of energy capable of closing the rift forever. But it came with a price. Whoever activated it would not survive the process. "I'll do it," Flynn said without hesitation. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed his fear. Dr. Carter turned to him, shaking her head. "No, we need you to lead the fight. This was always my mission. I understand the artifact better than anyone." Their argument was cut short as the Zokor launched their final assault. The flagship descended into Earth's atmosphere, targeting the Resolute. Arthun, realizing that humanity was on the brink of victory, prepared to strike a decisive blow. The final stand. The artifact's energy surged as the fragments united. The Resolute became the epicenter of a blinding wave of light that spread across the planet. The Zakor fleet faltered, their systems failing as the energy destabilized their technology. Humanity's forces rallied, pushing back the invaders with a ferocity born of desperation and hope. Dr. Carter, standing at the artifact's console, began the activation sequence. The energy readings spiked, and the artifact emitted a low hum that resonated with the very fabric of reality. "This is it," she whispered, her voice filled with resolve. Arthun, sensing the end, launched one final desperate attack on the Resolute. The flagship's weapons fired, but before they could strike, the artifact released its full power. A wave of energy erupted, not outward, but inward, collapsing the rift and severing the Zakor's connection to their ancient masters. The Zakor fleet disintegrated, their ships vanishing in flashes of light. Arthun's flagship was the last to fall, the commander's defiant roar echoing through the void before it was silenced forever. The aftermath. When the light faded, the Resolute floated silently in orbit. Earth's skies were clear. The battle was over. Humanity had won. But the cost was great. Dr. Carter was gone, her body consumed by the artifact's activation. The task force returned to Earth as heroes, but the weight of their victory hung heavy on their hearts. Marcus Flynn stood on the surface, looking up at the stars. He knew that this was only the beginning. The Sentinel's warning echoed in his mind. The rift is closed, but the Ancient Ones are awake. Humanity had proven its strength, but the universe was vast, and its dangers were far from over. As Earth rebuilt, a new resolve took root in the hearts of its people. They were no longer just survivors. They were protectors, and they would be ready for whatever came next. The universe trembled when humanity entered the fray. Now, it would remember their name.